everyone, and welcome to the 101 on Sports here on Fox 2. I'm Randy Karraker from the opening drive on 101 ESPN. Back in 1998, St. Louis experienced one of the great summers that we've ever had as Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa rumbled towards the all-time home run crown. Not only did McGwire and Sosa have spectacular seasons, but Mark led the National League in OPS. He led the National League in slugging percentage. He led the National League in on-base percentage and walks, and of course, hit a then record 70 home runs. Earlier this season, we had a chance to talk to Mark about that summer and also ask him about what struck him about St. Louis that caused him to want to be here and to have people follow in his footsteps like Jim Edmonds and Scott Rowland and Matt Holliday and now Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado. And we welcome into the program on Fox 2, the 101 on Sports, former Cardinal slugger Mark McGwire. Mark, it's always good to see you. Thanks for taking some time with us.
It's always good to be with you, Randy.
Hey, let's start with this. I want to talk about the Cardinals as they embark on 2023, and this is going to be a pretty good team. I know you have a lot of familiarity with guys on this team, but specifically Nolan Arenado, who turned down the chance to opt out. You kind of set the trend here back in 1997 when you didn't go into free agency. What was it about St. Louis? What do you think it is about St. Louis for a guy like Nolan Arenado to want to be here so badly?
I just don't think it's a secret anymore. I didn't know back then, back in 97 when I was traded, until I stepped on the field there in Busch Stadium, old Busch Stadium, and the love, the knowledge, the fan base, Cardinal Nation. I've grown up in California. Nolan grew up 20 minutes from me here in Orange County. And then you get a taste of that. And yeah, listen, it's not all about money. I know the money's great right now, but it's not about money. It's about love. It's about the team culture. It's about the fan base. And there is nothing better than Cardinal Nation.
I want you to tell the story about your interactions with Tony and Walt after that spring of 01 with Albert.
Well, it was really, it's simple. It's like, when you see talent, age doesn't matter. You see the confidence. I've heard nothing but great things about Jordan. The way he carries himself and the way he speaks and how humble he is. But when he's in that box and out there playing, he wants to take your heart out. That's a winner right there. Obviously, he's going to have the ups and downs. But to get back to 01, Albert was doing everything he can to make the ball club. Back then, we didn't really realize and understand how what the minor league was like. There wasn't all this information like there is today. Now they televise the draft. You know what's going on in college ball. You know what's going on in high school ball. We didn't have all this stuff, and then all of a sudden this kid, Albert Pujols, comes into camp, and you sit there and you go, wow, guys like this, talent like this just doesn't come around that often, once every 20, 25 years. And here we are again, it's like we have the possibility of him doing what Albert did. And we're sitting in the dugout. I remember that day, and Albert was playing, I believe it was left field right there at Roger Dean Stadium, and he made this unbelievable diving catch. He was brought up as a third baseman, and he's playing every position he possibly to make the ball club. I think he probably hit close to 400 in spring training. And I just turned to Tony and I just said, that it would be the dumbest move of your career if you don't put Albert on our ball club. And 5-7 days later, Bobby Bonilla went down, I think, with a hamstring or something like that. And there's Albert on the ball club, and Hall of Fame career, first ballot. And if Albert's not 100%, there is absolutely something wrong. They should take the voting and throw it away, because he absolutely is 100% Hall of Famer. And that's really about it. It's exciting. I really like what they've done with allowing these kids and not worrying about their time in the big leagues and paying and how much money they're going to get paid, and look into the future. You don't know what the future holds. Let's see what they have now. We have to see what these young kids are made of. There's quite a few young kids that made these major league teams going in out of spring training. It's going to be exciting for baseball. Why wouldn't you put the best talent on the field? And we're going to see it in St. Louis.
And Mark, the guys are so much more polished, right? Because of and I'm not a huge analytics guy, but the advanced technology, the ability to use video just to make themselves better at such a young age really does seem to cause hitters to advance at a younger age.
Yes, it does, but it also puts in a lot of thoughts in their mind too. I mean, I think the analytics is so much better for the pitchers today because you can see the result right away. You can make the result happen. Hitters, it's a little bit more difficult. You can have the analytics, you can have the numbers, you know how hard you're swinging, you know how you're going to hit the ball, but it takes two to tango. You got to get a pitch to hit in order for that number to reach that number. So it's yes, the video is great, but the thing is that sort of worries me is with the knowledge that they're getting today, it might be a little bit too much knowledge. You know, you have to make decisions by yourself. You can't have somebody make a decision for you or give you information. You get the information by what you see on the video. And that's the thing that I loved about the game. And that's why people always said, hey, why don't you smile? Why don't you? Because my mindset was so into the game and it was so into the pitcher when I was in the dugout on the on deck circle. I never took practice swings because my eyes were just mesmerized on that pitcher. And I was trying to figure out where his hand release was. Where's he throwing that ball out of that box? You know, analytics doesn't do that. This is my eyes and this is my mind telling myself what I'm going to do to prepare that at bat. And I think that's the thing. It might get lost a little bit in this stuff. Listen, analytics has been going on for ever since baseball started over 100 years ago. We just know how to use it now. But the thing is, there's a happy medium between analytics and your own eyes and your own mind. You have to make a decision yourself. And I think the one little thing is, I think sometimes these young kids aren't told that you have to make the decision by yourself. You can't have somebody make it for you, and you have to put the time and the effort. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was down visiting my son in Mesa, and I was talking to some hitting coaches with the Cubs. And I was saying to myself, if I had the analytics and the computers today when I was playing, oh my God, forget it. I would pick everything off of you guys. And it's like, that's the thing is like, I don't know if these young kids are being taught how to use the computer and how to use the analytics correctly. They're just told what these numbers mean. I want somebody to sit me down and go, listen, let's diagnose, let's figure out, hey, when he gets to this position right here, when his hand turns right here, like my wife kills me all the time. She's always, you watch baseball all the time. I'm like, well, it's in my blood. It's never going to go anywhere. I love it. I'll watch, has tendencies of these pitchers. I'll jump out of my chair when I'm watching games because I'm like, if I have the analytics and I have my eyes and my mind and my play today, I know I'm a lot older, 59 right now, but I wish I was 25 years younger. I mean, my God, I don't know it'd be a lot better than what I did. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Mark McGwire only hit 30 these days, but he is 59 years old. Mark McGwire is with us on the 101 on Sports. More coming up here on Fox 2.
Tired of painting year after year? Go Rhino, and you'll never have to paint your home or building again. Rhino Shield is formulated specifically for our unique climate here in St. Louis. Rhino Shield resists chipping, cracking, flaking, or peeling, and is backed by our extraordinary 25-year warranty. So stop throwing your money away on ordinary paint. Call now for a free estimate and receive 10% off the regular price.
Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Cardinal Hall of Famer Mark McGwire with us on the 101 on Sports on Fox 2. And Mark, we were talking before we started this conversation, 25 years ago since you hit 70 home runs. Can you take us through what it was like? Because we all expected you to hit 62 home runs in 1998. What was that offseason like for you?
That offseason, it was a normal offseason. There was a little bit more things they had me do. I know I was on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Is this year? Is it the year that I was going to break 62? You know, I had to do a few other things, but going to spring training, it was sort of normal, but the expectations, and I had sort of mentally prepared myself because a couple of years, the last, 95, 96, I mean, I was getting close. I was in the 50s. I just knew I had to average 10 home runs a month. And I knew I was going to get there. And you're going to have, 1 month that's going to be well over 10. And I just didn't want to have a month where I had like 2 or 3. And really it is. Listen, everybody that puts on the spikes and the uniform, they're all talented. They all have some special talent. They're going to be really good. But the separator is in between the ears. And I think the thing is through the failure I had and throughout earlier in my career, in understanding how strong the mind is and figuring out the game by myself without a sports psychologist. I know everybody's talking sports psychologist, but I figured it out myself, not knowing what these sports psychologists are talking about today, because I'm like, oh my God, I was doing that myself. And I figured it out. But obviously I went and saw a psychologist and all this other stuff I did. But it's just like the mindset, and to separate yourself from everybody else is incredible. You listen to stories of Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan. I mean, it's just like the mindset is just crazy. And that's just one thing that I think is a separator. And that year, I knew my mindset was there. It was just really about pacing yourself and getting the pitches to hit. This is one thing I don't think people talk about enough. I believe I walked, at the time, it was a National League or maybe Major League record of 165 times. 165 times. Now, it's not that easy to go up to the plate hitting, knowing the pitcher's going to throw you 4 balls. It's not that easy. It's really, really hard to do that. And yeah, I struck out, but I walked a lot. So it was a 50-50 thing. And unfortunately today, kids are striking out too much. They're not walking enough. So anyways, it's just about staying healthy, pacing myself, understanding. And I think probably one of the biggest things I did is I took 15 to 20 minute little nap and meditated before every game. And I visualized pretty much every pitch I was going to see prior to the game. Doesn't mean I'm going to get a hit, but you know what? I was mentally prepared and ended up with 70 home runs.
So, Mark, with that being the case, I've told you before that I can still see that ball on opening day against Ramon Martinez, a grand slam going out of the ballpark. It was just a perfect, glorious Busch Stadium day. It was the ideal Cardinal opener. So do you, with as focused as you were, remember that in your mind's eye? Can you still see a home run like that?
Yeah, that was crazy. That was pretty close to floating on the and not having my feet on the ground that day. It was crazy. I was just like 4 straight games, I believe I did, right? 4 straight home runs. And then I went on. Then we went on the road, and I didn't, maybe hit a 1 home run. And then I come back, and everybody's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I think I hit 3 home runs that first home game when we got home against Arizona, I believe. So what a great time! What a great time of baseball. I mean, and the thing is to put the game back on the map after the '94 strike and all the things that had happened, and the love of the game the way it is. And I really love to see what they've done with the game. I love the new rules they have, and I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Yeah, I want to get to that.
Okay, but
I want to ask about Sammy though. Do you get to 70 if Sammy isn't chasing you?
Great question. I don't know. Well, I don't think we'll ever know. But I didn't want him to. He passed me that Friday night. I mean, think about that, and it sort of pissed me off. I remember I was out on the field. He was in Houston, and I heard the crowd because they all had the TVs on. The TVs weren't on for the game in St. Louis. The TVs were on the game watching Sammy play in Houston, and I remember the crowd go, "Oh." I go, "You've got to be kidding me," because in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I was the first one to break the record. And then he came up and he technically broke the record. But I mean, it's like, what would have happened if he overtook that? He has the record. And I had to put my mind into another gear. I was like going, there's no way I'm allowing this to happen. Not knowing that I was going to hit 5 home runs in the last 3 games of the season. I just wish it was one of those majestic 500 footers. I really do. But, Traxel, he had a nasty sinker slider, but I liked hitting off him, and I knew it was just a matter of waiting for a sinker that he'd sort of tugged over the middle a little bit, and it came right back in. I love down and in, but what's so cool about it is I still today get people that stop me on the streets or ballparks or something and just say, now we're talking 25 years later. So they were obviously younger back then, and how much it meant to them, how much it brought them back to the game of baseball, and how much they love the game of baseball so much today because of what happened in 98.
Mark McGwire with us on the 101 on Sports on Fox 2. We are going to talk a little bit about some of those rules changes as we head down the stretch with Mark on Fox 2.
Tired of painting year after year? Go Rhino, and you'll never have to paint your home or building again. Rhino Shield is formulated specifically for our unique climate here in St. Louis. Rhino Shield resists chipping, cracking, flaking, or peeling, and is backed by our extraordinary 25-year warranty. So stop throwing your money away on ordinary paint. Call now for a free estimate and receive 10% off the regular price.
Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Welcome back to the 101 on Sports on Fox 2. Mark McGwire with us. And Mark, we want to talk about some of the rules changes because I wanted to ask you earlier, when you talked about how you were focused in on a pitcher, I think one of the underrated aspects to the pitch clock is that the hitter with 8 seconds on the clock has to have his eyes on the pitcher. Is that going to be difficult, you think, for some of the hitters that do a lot of thinking at the plate?
It might be for the first 2, 3, 4 weeks of the season. Everybody will get used to it. I was doing a interview like this a couple weeks ago, and I was talking about that. I don't know where they came up with the 8 seconds, and I don't. If the hitter's in the box and he's in there, he's in there. So what does it matter if he's looking at the pitcher or not? He's ready to go. So I don't know where the 8 seconds came from. I love the pitch clock. I love how things speed up. That's the one thing that I really believe is going to really help the game of baseball. And a lot of people are going to understand how great it is to see a 2.5 hour game, a 2 hour game. I just love it. I wish they would have gone to 20 seconds and 25 seconds. I don't know where they came up with 15 and 20 seconds. I think they're going to have a lot of problems when it comes down into the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, when the pressure's on, and now the games mean something now. Spring training, let's go through it. But the games mean something. I really will hate to see if somebody loses a ball game because of a pitch violation or hitter violation. It's going to suck. It's going to suck. But I think it's going to help the game tremendously. Listen, baseball is really the only sport that didn't have a time clock. Mm-hmm. And now everybody has it. And people go, what are you talking about? Golf doesn't. I said, yeah, golf has a time clock. There's a guy walking with every group, time in the group. And if you get behind, you get a warning. And then once that warning's over, if the time's up, you're going to get an added stroke on there. So I think it's awesome for the game. There's a couple things. I think the throw over stuff is sort of, I don't understand why they're doing that. I don't understand the bigger base thing. That's just somebody's thought. Like we have
because of number 62.
What's that?
That's because of number 62, the bigger bases. It's 25 years late.
But I hope it creates something. You know what? I would have loved it. This is the thing is that, that baseline going down first base, this technically baseline that's out of play. Mm-hmm. Nobody runs in that baseline. It's just humanly impossible. By the time your weight takes you, it always takes you on the inside part of. So why don't we changing the baseline down the first base and put it right in the middle of the bag? Because how are you going to run down the outside part of the line and then curl back in and put your foot on the base? It just doesn't happen.
And ultimately that's caused some injuries in the past.
Yeah, but that's causing injury from the past. It's causing injury because they're putting a lot of people at first base playing first base that don't know how to play first base. you have a tendency, you can feel the runner coming down. You know, if you know your teammates and the way they throw the ball from short, third, say, you know the ball's going to be in. You get off the bag, you catch it, and you tag it. The problem is now they're just putting anybody over at first base, and they're not, obviously, St. Louis has one of the best first basemen in the history of the game in Goldie. But it's just like when you have first basemen that know what they're doing, there's not a lot of collisions. They know what to do. They know to get off. But I don't know if I just don't understand the base thing. I'd like to just talk to somebody that made these decisions and try to convince me well, the first base, we need to have the bases, a huge ass triple X pizza box out there.
Right. Hey, also because you coached when the shift was in place, not as prevalent as it was last year, but obviously, especially for left-handed hitters, the shift was a big deal. What do you think of the new shift rules?
I love them. This is one thing I wish they would have done. I don't mind the shift, right? I just didn't like the guy playing in the rover out behind in short right field. That's just absolutely ridiculous. Now, I know Boston did it earlier in spring training where they brought the left fielder in against Joey Gallos. Actually, I was watching that game that day. I think what they should do, and they might do it someday, I think all the infielders should have their feet on the dirt. I totally agree with that. And I can care less if you have a shift over as long as they're on the dirt. Because what's going to happen is the left-handers are hitting bullets, right? Those bullets are going to get through anyways. But, it's but the bullets get through and you have the roller route in short right field. It just doesn't make sense. He throws a guy out at first base. That just takes away a lot of hits, takes a lot of RBIs away, takes a lot of runs scored. I love it. I think it's great. You're going to see a lot more hits. You're going to see a lot more runs. But the premium that's going to be on the premium's going to be on infield work. Yeah. They've gotten away with it for the last 10, 15 years or something like that, where they don't work left and right. They can hide somebody in the infield. They can put them out there in the rover position. You're going to see you guys going to be able to they're going to have to be able to play shortstop and second base. They're going to be a lot more. They have to cover a lot more range. That might be a problem. There's going to be put a lot more emphasis on the catcher throwing today because of what we talked about earlier, because they only have 2 times they can throw over. So there's going to be a lot more emphasis on catching and infield. And I think that's going to be a huge emphasis when you go down you always talk about winning up the middle, right? Mm-hmm. Center field, catching, and real good second and shortstop. And this is going to come true this year. You're going to see it. You're going to see there's going to be a lot of infielders getting exposed this year because they don't really know how to play infield.
Hey, you're the best. Thanks so much for the time. Great to have you with us, and always great to visit with you, Mark. Thank you.
Randy, thank you very much for having me.
That is Cardinal Hall of Famer Mark McGwire with us on the 101 on Sports on Fox 2. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time. That's Mark McGwire. Our thanks to him for joining us and reminiscing about that summer of 1998, now 25 years ago. I appreciate you being with us here on Fox 2 on the 101 on Sports. It's always great to talk sports with St. Louis, and we'll see you next week. Have a great week, everybody.